Big welcome to everybody at Functional Medicine Fast Track community. It's great to see you guys again. My name is Garrick Vosloo. I am privileged to have Dyanna Haley-Rezac with us today from Colorado, PT as well. Welcome, Dyanna.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, today we're going to be going through Dyanna's story and where she's come from in the last, say, 18 months, I think it's been, Dyanna.
And not quite, yeah, about 15 months.
15 months now, yeah. So time seems to fly by. And Dyanna is a graduate of the Functional Medicine Fast Track program, but also the owner of Rezac and Associates PT practice in Colorado Springs. And Dyanna is now in our level 2 program, but she wants to just bring kind of her story of where she's at and what she's gone through. So Dyanna, maybe you want to just start off with just giving us what has kind of been your biggest outcome at this point for you graduating from the Functional Medicine Fast Track program.
Well, Garrick, it's really multifaceted, both personal and professional, because like many practitioners, we are driven in whatever course we want to pursue of study, a lot of times based on our own symptoms or situation, or we have a close family member, friend, or our patient population. And I kind of had been on that autoimmune spectrum for decades, really. Going back to high school with chronic migraines, and I had a head injury and a spinal cord injury. And by the time I was in my 20s, I could barely walk. I was using a cane and I was so dizzy, I'd fall over if I turned too quickly. And that got kind of worse. So becoming a PT really helped me. I went through lots of rehab and vestibular rehab and hip surgeries and got a lot better, but still struggled. And I really worked on clean life, exercise, eating well, and just still burn out. I worked hard and I got frustrated on the other end, patient care, trying to solve the same things. Went to school to become a PT and then board certification in orthopedics and then fellowship trained and board certified in neurology and then vestibular to handle this ever increasing complex patient population, because we're just have this huge autoimmune spectrum, like 85% increase over the last 35 years in the United States. So our patients are not the same patients we were treating 20 years ago. It's a whole different animal. And I realized I was that same one. And unfortunately, I ended up even having a heart attack because I was so stressed out trying to manage a practice, having all these clinicians who are great people, but we just hands were tied on how much we could help people. So I actually just got really sick and had to step back from patient care for a little bit. And during that time, I was seeking answers for myself. And I kind of tried a little bit of everything. I went to, ashrams and meditation retreats and all kinds of stuff, trying to figure out. And of course, Googling, found functional medicine and started reading more books. I was like, this is really where I feel like I need to be. So I did a lot of research in there, and that's where I found Functional Medicine Fast Track. And it's just changed everything for me, where not only have I gotten my health back by figuring out what I really needed to do, like genetically, where my food intolerances were and sleep and things like that I just was guessing at before. I really figured out how to dial into my own health, and then also changed my practice. I was able to go back to work and do something that energizes me, and I get to work with patients on a whole different level, where I was just frustrated with, I only had this much time with them. I saw I needed to do much more, but in the practice paradigm, I couldn't do it. So now I get to spend a lot of time with a few patients instead of a lot of patients with little amount of time, and make real differences in their life, where we can turn 20, 30 years of stuff around in a few months of knowing exactly what to do. And that's energizing for me, because finally taking all this experience I've had for all these years and take one other level to really get, excuse me, to the root cause of what's going on. So I feel like both personally and professionally, I've just had this whole makeover.
Love it, Dyanna. So let's go back a little bit and just chat about the situation before even coming to Functional Medicine Fast Track. Paint a picture for us. What was your daily experience. What were you experiencing emotionally? How many patients were you seeing? What were you doing in your practice? And what brought you to that point of transition?
Right. So I feel like our practice, excuse me, I feel like our practice is really unique because we do really encompass the whole patient care, and we do address things like nutrition, lifestyle factors. We've been doing this for at least a decade and realizing that all that is important to recovery. And our patient population is primarily very complex ortho-neuro central sensitization chronic pain. And so we have really had to create a model to handle people that are sensitive to everything, to light, to sound, to any stimuli. And they've come in with not just a shoulder problem, they have like a headaches and dizziness and the back and the foot and all these things that aren't clearly an organic orthopedic issue anymore, or an organic neurological impairment, because they're systemic. They go with the whole autoimmunity spectrum. And we were seeing on average, we still do, we see about one patient every half hour, normally an hour for an eval. The more complex patients, sometimes we could get 45 minutes. But it's a small window when you're trying to deal with 5 different body parts, and I can't sleep, and I've got stress of taking care of my kids and my mom and all these other things. So that was frustrating to me, because as my patient population kept getting more complex, because they heard about how we handled this well at our practice, we kept getting more and more complex patients. And I could see oftentimes 15 or 16 patients a day, and then have to go document, because I didn't want to take away any time I had with them, because it was so valuable that at the end of the day, I was going home and up late documenting charts and, working all the time and not leaving a lot of space for me. I could go out maybe a couple times a week on a hike and do yoga once a week or something, but I was so stressed and overwhelmed by the complexity, and I knew I wanted to do more for these people. So I guess compared to now, I work a few hours a day and I have a lot of freedom with my schedule. A lot of times I work more in the afternoon when people are coming off work and whatever, but it allows me, I start out, do a little bit of work in the morning. I go out and go on a nice long hike with my dogs. I'm energized. I come back, I do a little bit more work, and it's not just all day long, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. It's a balance of life. I get to do what I want to do also. And I get to still help people on a much higher level, because I'm concentrating all my focus into one person at a time for several hours every time I go to work on patient care. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's what our listeners want to hear, is just where you were at and how you transitioned and what the changes have been. I know when we first spoke, Dyanna, you were at a point of burnout and you were not working at your practice anymore. I think you literally said, I don't want to go back there at the moment, not because of what your practice has done. It's done amazing things, but you were just feeling burnt out at that point. Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Right. And I think that's kind of like what I talked about just a little bit ago. I got burnt out because I just felt so frustrated. I had so much to do in such a short window. And then the burden of documentation on it. And with insurance reimbursement, trying to document things like lifestyle factors and the things that you need to do to help that person get where they need to go, you had to be very creative and write detailed notes. I mean, just to get it through insurance, so they're not like, oh, well, that's really not physical therapy. So that was frustrating too. But also, I think I do have a fairly large practice. We have 8 clinicians, so in one building, and there's a lot of moving parts with that. And then we also have a residency program and a fellowship program, and we have doctoral students. And so anytime I probably have 20, I can have like 10 clinicians, 20 total people there. So that was hard too, to manage that on top of a full caseload. So by stepping back and doing something that energized me, filled my cup, taking care of my health, I now am back in the practice, and I go and I mentor. Once a week, I spend time with each of my teams. I work with the students. I have created a whole fellowship residency program. We've created everything for them. Also streamlining like what I didn't have time to do, kind of what I've done in my functional medicine practice, where I create program content for my patients. I created program content for my team and our educational process. So just having the energy again, where I'm not tired, I get up, I'm ready to go, I'm focused, I'm not mentally drained. Not only have I been able to create a whole new practice, I've been able to grow my practice in a healthier manner because I have the freedom in my brain and body to be able to be creative again and come up with solutions for them instead of just, oh, this is another problem or this happened, or that we actually are being more proactive and creating ways for them to handle the same patient population in a better way.
Love that. I love that. So you're actually now more effective in your business because you're working on your business, not in your business from previous. Yeah. And then you've taken on the extra online functional medicine business at the same time. So, and you mentioned a lot about health. So that has been the kind of turning point for you to go back and have the enthusiasm. Can you speak a little bit about that? What have been the specific changes in your health that you've seen from before to now?
So I had a lot of injuries, you know, I talked about a little bit ago, but a lot of those, I think most people have an injury, and if your tissues are in an optimal healing environment, you're going to get over it within 6 or 12 weeks. You know, I was in the Marine Corps, I ran a marathon a month, 10 miles a day, and kept having like hip and ankle and all this stuff where, yes, it could have been overtraining, but also looking at my history and going back through all my labs over the years, that stuff, people didn't look at my labs when they were just trending in a bad direction. They waited until they got red. So all of a sudden I look at these labs and I'm diabetic and I have Hashimoto's and all these things. And when I started looking in a different light and I went back through these labs, I actually was trending that way for 20 years, but nobody said a thing until they went red. And so that's something I think functional medicine really looks at differently. We don't wait till you're really sick to do it. But I really was. I had, my hair was falling out. I was irritable. I just couldn't concentrate, had brain fog, just no motivation to do anything. And I'm typically a really highly motivated person. I've done a lot in my 20 years on pure adrenaline and cortisol, but just kind of hit a burnout where there's only so long that you can ride that without getting the regeneration in your body. So I just got to a point where I just had mentally, physically, completely fatigued, in pain, couldn't deal with things like I wanted to. My body just hurt all the time. And a lot of this, it changed around when I really was able to, I mean, a lot of it over several years working on better food and exercise and stress helped a lot. But once I really put myself through a lot of the testing to see genetically, this is what I have, this is what genes I have, this is how I should treat them. Like, for example, you read all these magazines on every Whole Foods or whatever about the best foods to eat. Well, avocados, coconuts, berries, right? Come to find out, I have a sensitivity to all of them. And so I'm eating more of these great foods that the newsstand is telling me to do because that's a health food. And so even though I was dairy free and all that, I was eating tons of coconut products. And it turns out I'm very sensitive to coconut. So by going back and doing my genetic testing, that helped me identify, and same with exercise. Because of the diabetes and Hashimoto's, I kept gaining weight. So I'd work out harder. I would run more. I would do body pump and sculpt, and I would just hurt and be more tired the next day. Come out and find out in my genetic testing, I am more of a low intensity exercise need. So when I switched my focus around to, I still do long hikes and go out with my dogs in nature instead of on a treadmill or an elliptical, but it's something that fills me more from nature and it's more my pace. I pay attention to my body. And then also doing yoga. I actually do aerial yoga now. Went from being completely dizzy and not able to walk to I spin upside down and back and forth. And I have my own studio, and I've developed core strength like I haven't had in so long. So that just the combination of the right exercise, of the mindfulness, the not cortisol spiking exercise, and a whole body workout of strength, but also intention of paying attention to what's going on in my body. And then, even getting like a sleep ring, the Aura ring has helped me because then it tells me, okay, you slept this well. And I would know if I woke up and, I'm not my best today, but I wouldn't know why. And learning to track and say, okay, well, I didn't have good REM sleep, or I didn't have good deep sleep. Why? And then, oh, well, right, I had some red meat that night, or whatever. I've learned to draw correlations. And through this process, all the things, learning to really optimize my sleep so I get that full regeneration recovery time, optimize my food, and looking at like what I'm eating and do my food sensitivity test was another one to say, okay, these are the foods that are going to energize me and replenish my body, and these are the ones that are going to take away from that. And just kind of focusing everything in the right direction specific for me has made all the difference in the world. I mean, I generally don't need an alarm clock ever anymore. I just get out of bed. I'm ready to go. I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel brain fog. I just a whole transformation in my life. I mean, and I see it in other things like my skin. I used to have like huge dark circles under my eyes, and I just don't have those anymore, and I always would spend all kinds of money on all these face creams, and I need to get rid of these circles and just everything. And I see like just total transformation in my health. My hair is not falling out in clumps anymore. It's grown back. My nails don't break. I don't have gum disease. I had periodontal disease for a while. That's all cleared up. So pretty much every aspect of my health, and even all my testing has come back where I cleared out all the gut bacteria, and all my autoimmune inflammatory markers have come back into a normal range. So yeah, and I feel like I want to do more things. Like I enjoy traveling, but I was always exhausted by it. And I'm getting ready to go on a 3.5-week medical mission trip to Peru. So, and the beauty of functional medicine, working telehealth, I can work from there. So I can do other things that I really want to do and take work with me, but also have the energy to do it. And I'm going to climb Machu Picchu and a couple other long hikes while I'm there. And I'm pretty excited about that because I actually did my first 14er this last year. And anybody who knows the Manitou Incline, which is kind of famous for the longest mile straight up, I've done it 3 times this year, and I cut my time in half by the 3rd time. So I feel like I just had my 48th birthday, and I like to celebrate these because every year I'm feeling so much better and so much younger. I don't feel like I get older. I feel like I can't wait to see what's going to happen next because I just feel better all the time.
Oh, that's so awesome. So awesome. Yeah, it's amazing to see the transformation in health with functional medicine, particularly when you just put it into practice and just go step by step. And you're seeing that with your patients now as well. You've been the example as the practitioner, and now the patients just follow. And that's leadership as well. So I love that. So Dyanna, do you want to speak a little bit about what did you try before Functional Medicine Fast Track to learn functional medicine?
Oh, yeah. I guess that journey has probably been about 10 years for me. I think on a directed level, on some level before that, always figuring out, obviously I was an exercise physiologist. And so for 30 years, I've been trying to figure out what's the optimal exercise for people and what's the right combination of strength training versus aerobic training versus, flexibility. And that's something I've studied for about 30 years, and both academically and every resource out there. Then when I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I went to a functional endocrinologist, and this was about 10 years ago. And this was still fairly new in the United States. I mean, functional medicine is still emerging, but it was like really, I had never heard of anybody like this. And he helped my mom. So my mom's like, well, go see this guy in Denver. So I did. And the first thing he told me is like, you got to change what you're eating. And he had me go to a paleo diet. And that helped me a lot, but it still didn't dial in exactly what I needed. But that definitely helped me to get rid of, and I still didn't buy into the no dairy at that point. I didn't realize how much dairy was not my friend. So I probably wasn't truly paleo about it. But also I misinterpreted a lot of what came out there. Like a lot of people think paleo means like really low vegetables, and it's all meat. And that's not really true. So I've actually, a lot of this is trial and error. I've followed Mark Hyman and Amen and Susan Bloom, and I mean, like every functional medicine person out there. I've read every book, every major functional medicine person who's put something out. I've followed their work and tried to piece that with myself and my patients, but still lacking the, I guess, the getting to the root cause of myself. I mean, there's a lot of things I still guess, like if you have these symptoms and you might have this, and you should try this botanical or this supplement. And I got to a point where literally I had a whole bag of supplements. I would like sort out my supplements like for 3 times a day. And it was like somebody who's 90 years old on all these medications. I spent so much money on supplements that I didn't even know if they were doing, because this book said do that, or this article said do this. I was like seeking everything I could, tried every other kind of exercise. So I'm a seeker of knowledge. I pretty much spend a lot of my time watching webinars and audible books. I listen to audibles everywhere I'm driving and going through all this. What really made a difference for me with my health, all these things helped, because as I learned to understand sleep hygiene as a thing, okay, I started taking it more seriously, doing stuff like the blackout shades and the sunlight alarm and wind down routine and lavender and all that. And I got better, but still not great because I hadn't dialed into everything that I needed. So I think through this last 10 years, I, in a lot of ways, got better, but still burnout, because the other component was the stress component. Like, I didn't realize how much that amount of stress, no matter how well you're trying to live, you just can't, there's your stress bucket, there's only so much you can overcome. Once your bucket gets full from whatever it is, whether it's environmental, food, sleep, whatever, then you get totally just at a breaking point, I guess, from everything that's going on. So I guess the answer to that is, like, I've tried so many other things, like reading on my own, going to other programs, going to, like I said, meditation retreats, and all that helped for sure. And it wasn't until I figured out this is specifically me, the foods I need to do, that kind of stuff, and get to the actual root cause of what was manifesting as my joint pain and my sleep issues and my gum stuff. And once I got to that underlying bacteria and what food I needed to do and how I need to clean it up, that made the difference to where I am now. I think I survived well, because if I had not, and I look at this with most of my patients, the people I treat, we end up being really sick and dealing with a lot, and you try all these things, which keeps you alive and keeps you functioning. Because if I hadn't have done everything I had done before, I know what my genetics are like, and I know what my family is like. I could have been much worse than I was coming into this program.
Got it. So Dyanna, tell me a little bit about, you already had a certification through another online functional medicine program before you came to Functional Medicine Fast Track. What do you feel were the major differences to help you to your outcomes that you're living at the moment?
Right. So I actually did them concurrently, kind of. I started the other one first through, it was Functional Medicine University, and I started that program first, and I was probably about a month or so into it, maybe a month and a half, where, you and I had spoke before this, and I kind of made the decision, which one do I want to go? And I was like, okay, well, I can do this on my own. I'm a smart girl. I can figure this out. I can do this whole online program. And it was like a bunch of coursework. You go through modules, you take a test, all through the program, and take a final test. And they do throw a lot of resources, like tons of stuff on labs and supplements and all that. But about a month and a half in the program, I got really frustrated, because here I was having this like fire hose of information coming at me, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know, like, okay, well, now how do I start treating patients with this? And how do I develop systems? And what's going to happen? And that's when we spoke again. And I really felt like the fast track would give me that. And it did, where I still completed the other certification program, and there was lots of good content in there. But with the fast track program, I also got the content, but in the order I needed it and how I needed to receive it, with the process of, okay, well, how do I get online and treat through telehealth, or how do I develop marketing and how the support? Some of the other things I hadn't anticipated the benefit I would get was the mindset support. And at first I was like, really, we're going to do a mindset call once a week? Why are we wasting our time on that? And the support that you get within the group, the weekly sessions, and how much I did not anticipate how much I would get from the other participants in the group, and the whole mindset coaching part. But also just knowing, instead of, okay, here's a list of 30 labs you can use. You can use all these different companies instead of signing up for all of them. And like, okay, these are the ones that we have found to be really good. They're reputable. This is what you'll get from them. Same with supplement companies and stuff. There's so many of them out there to choose from, to kind of dial into which supplements are the best from which companies, and having that mentorship. Where the other program is kind of like, we have a chat group that we can talk, or kind of like a blog posting. Somebody can post something and everybody else can chime in. So it's kind of like being on a Facebook group. But in the fast track group, it was more, you actually brought real cases and shared them and had a live discussion all through the program. So you got to learn together on your own patients as well as others. So the more times you saw it and talked through as a group, you really got a deeper understanding. And then then the content made more sense when you could apply it real time. So I don't think I would be at all where I am now if I hadn't have done the fast track.
Got it, Dyanna. So you were mentioning how stress has been a major factor for you in getting your health under control. You think those years that you went through, the stress was the big component. How has the change in structure of your online practice, your telehealth, and how you live your life now, with what functional medicine fast track has helped you with, change that stress?
Right. It's changed a lot. I mean, I don't think I do. In some ways, I work every bit as hard as I did before the program and before I got really sick. I just don't feel it the same. And for me, looking at my life history, I grew up in a very stressed environment in a lot of ways. So much like my patients I see, when you grow up with that from birth, you don't necessarily recognize stress because you don't know what it's like to not be stressed. And I don't think I slept through the night until I was maybe 35 years old. And I didn't realize that was a problem. I mean, and a lot of times the things that stressed me out, and I was always trying to please other people and do things for other people, were the things I got rewarded for, because everybody's like, oh, good job, here's this national award for this, or here's this, or my family's like, oh, thanks for doing this. But I always seem to get rewarded for things that were not, where I was putting myself in like crazy amounts of stress. So the program helped me in a couple ways. Like, one, to just recognize when I am feeling stressed and how to deal with it, and also to lower my stress in other areas. Like if I wasn't getting it from eating foods that were bad for me, and I was getting good sleep, and lowering my other inputs of stress, and just slowing down and finding the balance that I don't have to be going 100 miles an hour. And the slower I go, the more intentional I am, the more mindful I am, I actually accomplish a lot more in a shorter span of space. So that also gives me more room to do the things that I enjoy, like hiking and yoga and, going out, having a lunch date with some friends or whatever. I get a lot done in a shorter amount of space, and I have more personal time to do the things I enjoy doing. Get out skiing, take long weekends, So I think that stress component, like I still run the same practice and I still actually manage all those other patients in a way, but I'm not as stressed about it because I feel energized by what I'm doing. I feel healthier. I feel more balanced. And my work day isn't the same as it used to be, where it's like I go into work and work a long day. I have less long periods of work. I work for a couple hours, then I go do something physical. And then I come back and work for a couple hours. So it's not a traditional work schedule anymore. And by doing that, I work at my capacity, and then I go do something to energize myself, and I come back and I'm at capacity again, versus coming into the day, okay, lunch, you got a break. Okay, let's eat food, get your documentation done, get back out there. And you're just slowly burning out through the end of the day. And by the end of the week, you're just exhausted. So now I have things more structured to fit a healthier balance for me, so I don't feel the stress. And I think I actually do more now than I've done for a long time.
Amazing, amazing. So a lot of people want to probably just hear confirmation from you. Dyanna, is your functional medicine practice completely online?
Yes, it is. Complete honesty, truth on that. There's one thing that I don't always do, because I do have a brick and mortar practice here. If I need to get a patient a notebook or supplement or whatever, I'll take it to the clinic and they can pick it up there, just because I have that, but I don't have to. Most of the supplements and stuff, they order online, tests they order online, everything gets shipped to their house. My practice for functional medicine is entirely online. When I go to the clinic, it's if I need to consult with a therapist on a patient or something. But everything I do for my practice, we do interactive portals where they chat me anytime they want. It comes to my phone. I know that they chatted me. I can answer them back from wherever. So I can actually work if I'm out on a trail if I need to. I don't have to go into a clinic, which is kind of nice. You know, I can go run out for a couple hours and do something and then come back for a meeting and work around my schedule. And there's been a few times like I got stuck coming back from LA in traffic from Denver. And I was not driving, but I had my computer and I had to hold a whole meeting on my computer in the car on the way back. And it was just fine. So it's no different than me sitting here in my office. I've done it on my phone if I've had to. So, and like I said, I'm getting ready to go to Peru for 3.5 weeks and I'll be working there. As long as I have an internet connection, I can work from wherever I am. And that's really nice because, you know, a lot of times you're getting ready to take off for a conference or vacation or something, and you're just like trying to get all the patient care in and seeing more patients and getting your charts done and everything. Well, I'm going to be gone next week for a whole week for a conference, and I'm not even stressed about it because I have the freedom to just, I'll go up to the hotel room, do the meeting I need to do this chart review, look at this lab, and then go back down because I don't have to worry about finishing everything to go do something. So I get to work a lot more at my pace. And, you know, some days I feel more energized than others. And when I have a strong energy day, I get out there and I really work on program content and other things. And if I'm just not feeling it that day, then I do patient care, whatever I have to, but then I go do something for me to bring my energy level back up. And I don't have a structured work schedule of patients every day where I have to see I normally only meet with one patient a day. And for about an hour, and then the rest of the time is kind of free time to do what I need to do in my program, in my practice, and whatever I feel like doing that day. So, yeah.
Love it. So Dyanna, just paint a picture for everybody watching. In functional medicine fast track, we always say kind of entry level is start with a 16-week program at 2,000 to 4,000 K. Like, where is your program and how many clients have you got in your program?
So I run my program, I decided 16 weeks because I feel like most of my clients, it takes about a good month to get them through like an elimination diet, get their testing, go through all their history, everything to really dive deep into what's going on with them to get everything back, their labs and all that. So I give them sort of a month to get used to chatting me and coming onto the group sessions and watching their program. And then that gives us 3 solid months to really work on specific for them what they need to do. So my program is very individualized to every client. There's no like one size fits all because you can't do that with functional medicine. But they come in, I normally take about 1 new patient a week is about my average, and work with them, and we sit down, they do through Living Matrix, they do all of their history, and it takes most of my clients 2 to 3 hours to do their medical history because they're so complex. They're just really have all these things going on. And when I get that back, I get their whole timeline, their matrix, and it helps me see, okay, they're having all these other things that I wouldn't think to ask about sometimes, but I have it all in my history for them and looking at their medical symptom questionnaire and their global health and mental, physical. And then it kind of helps you paint pictures of categories of what's all going on with them. So once I do that, then I know one of the things I do is once off. I have a once off cost for my program. I charge $5,250 for the whole 16-week program. And in that, they get 3 genetic testing, they get a stool analysis and a food sensitivity test. And we do that right off so that we get that back within a few weeks. And from there, then I have some pre-done content every week I release to them, like welcome video and this is how to use it, but things like walking them through what an elimination diet is. And I try and present it to every learner in different ways, where I have one that's recorded PowerPoint, one is a handout, so they can either read it, they can watch it, they can hear it, however it works for them. And then talking to them about things like the importance of hydration and analyzing their own stool and urine output every day, of like, what should it look like? What am I eating the right foods, or am I having undigested foods? Is it watery? Whatever. So I have weekly content that comes out to them to talk to them about like nutrition on a basic level, of how to select organic foods and what things to avoid, something that it's universal content that they can do at their own pace. And then we have a weekly Q&A where everybody logs in onto a Zoom meeting who's in the program. And we start out with celebrations and say, you know, what went well this week? What are you liking? And that's always fun to see, you know, where they can brag to their support group about what accomplishments they had that week. And then we go into whatever questions they have. And it's really fun. I wasn't sure how that would go doing a group session with patients. They love it. They love getting in there with each other. And we talk about different recipe ideas, or how to use your Instant Pot to make yogurt, or how to make a gluten-free, low sugar, dairy-free cake. And I get ideas from them, and they share with each other as much as I give to them. So that's fun. We do that once a week, and I actually have 2 levels of that. So that's the first one they go through. During that time, I meet with everybody once they get their initial history into me, and they upload any lab test they've ever had done. Like, I go through all their years of blood work and see where their trends are. Some of them have like brain scans or day 2 or whatever. They load up every lab they've ever had. And like I said, my patients tend to be really complex. So they might load up 20 different labs to me, and it takes me a little bit to go through all that. So the first meeting I have with them is a Zoom, and I go through everything that I saw in their lab reports and where they are so far and what are our next steps. And some people are so far on the unawareness spectrum that we have to start out with things like mindfulness and breathing, and say, okay, let's work on sleep, let's work on stress. And then, because some of them have been trying elimination diets, they tried all this other stuff, and their food is so, they don't even know, everything makes them sick. Well, it's not really the food at that point, because they have so many other lifestyle factors. So we might start there. Other people, we might start on an elimination diet because they didn't even know that dairy was causing their problems, or gluten or whatever. So we start with that. And then once we get their test back, we can dial it in a lot better to, okay, now we know you are sensitive to these foods, you need to remove those. We know that genetically you are predisposed to diabetes or whatever, and this is how you need to treat those genes. And then also, do we need to bring in some supplements? Because if you genetically have MTHFR or COMP gene or something that's impairing your ability to regenerate your cells, then maybe we need to support that with other supplements. So I guess there's not like any one answer on that. They do get a one-on-one with me every month. We have our group session. They have their program content, and then from there they can chat me whenever. Sometimes some of them in 1 week will chat me every day, and then I won't hear from them for 3 weeks while they're working on something else. And the best part of it is I can meet them where they need it each week. So sometimes they might need me a lot 1 week, and then for the next couple of weeks they're good, and then they'll need me again. And then so I can kind of adapt how much support I can give them to where they are in the program. Did I answer all the questions with that?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I think for the viewers, they just want to get like a broader picture. You've got very much what we recommend in functional medicine fast track. You're doing 16 weeks, you're charging $4,000 plus you're adding some labs in. So your rate is 5,250. And you bring in about a client a week. You find that happy. You only need to get onto a call with them once a day, you having a call with somebody. And that's allowing you to have the freedom during the day to just have less stress, focus on your traditional business, and then look after your own health. And
and then I can choose to, it's like over the holidays, I have a lot of parties at my house. Everybody knows that. People who know me, I do like parties of 35, like 4 of them, for full dinner parties and everything. And over the holidays, I just didn't want to deal with a lot of extra work. So I just didn't take any new clients. And that's the nice thing, is I can hold off and say, okay, I've got this coming up, or like going to Peru, I probably won't take any new clients over a trip like that. But I've got enough to manage what I'm doing. And I have the freedom to say, okay, I can put somebody on a wait list and I'll pick you up in a few weeks if I just have something else going on that I need to tend to. And I had some things happen with my family this last year where they really needed me to do some stuff for a couple weeks. And I was able to just step back and be where I needed to be in that moment and then pick it right back up. And I don't have to worry about losing referrals or, people falling off the schedule. Like in my traditional practice, if I took 3 weeks off, all of a sudden where are all my patients, So it kind of lets me work at my own pace where I can still take care of the patients I have. But if I feel like I want to have a little bit lighter load while I'm going through something else, I have that freedom now.
100%. So Dyanna, we see with 100% of the practitioners that want to achieve their goals and their dreams, and they're thinking about coming to functional medicine fast track, they've got fears, doubts, and uncertainty. And I remember when we spoke, you expressed some of those. What made you, or how did you get over those fears, doubts, and uncertainties to really say, okay, I'm committed to my goals, I'm going to make a decision to move forward?
I think some of the best things I've ever done in my life have come from me being in a position where I was uncomfortable enough to want to make a change. And I look at every major leap I've taken, even quitting my management job to open my own practice. I did that because I was uncomfortable enough. It was finally, I never thought I wanted to be a business owner. I never wanted that. I grew up in a family business that was super stressful. And I just didn't think I wanted that life for myself. But I finally got to a point in that practice that I said, I could do this better. I just can. And I hate this enough. And that's kind of where I was in my life when I spoke with you. I had been trying all this stuff. It wasn't for a lack of effort. I put tons of effort into health and practice and balance and everything I thought I knew I needed to do, but it wasn't working. And I wasn't where I wanted to be. And finally got to the point where the leap of faith and the fear of jumping into something where I'm committing myself wholeheartedly, financially, emotionally, the business, everything. That was a huge leap. And I think I just got to a point where the desire to change overcame my fear. And it's been great. And I won't say it was an easy change. I mean, even starting out, it's a lot. And all of us, I watch everybody else in the program, all of us come to the table with different strengths and different challenges, where some people are super good at online marketing and other people are really good at another aspect. But I feel like every one of us struggled and grew in different directions. And I see where we are now. It's an amazing transformation you see in everybody's life who's been through this program. And I feel like that for me, that it's broad enough and yet specific enough in all the components that it fills the need of where we lack and where we need to grow. I watch every one of us have different things that we bring to the table and different areas we've struggled with. And I feel like the program just was adaptable enough and had enough components of it that it helped each one of us get that part we need. And then again, the strength between all of us in the program of learning to say, okay, well, I have this challenge too. And there's some of it that, even though I guess it's like any other program that you go through in school where a professor tells you something, and you're like, yeah, but that's not me, and you hear this from the other people in the program, and they're real and they're honest, and okay, this is a real struggle for me, this is hard, and they're like, it is for me too. Well, what worked for you? And we grow together as much as we do in the program, because you can empathize with that other person who is not already made it, doing everything perfectly. They're struggling too. And we work together and we come up with ideas and help support each other. And that community is hugely invaluable. So I guess, that's a long answer to your question, but I just felt like it was the life I wanted. I saw it. I wasn't necessarily sure how I was going to get there, but I had enough faith to trust the process. And I think that would probably be the piece of advice I would give to anybody else who's starting out this program. Trust the process, because I kind of went in kicking and screaming a little bit. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good, but I don't think that's going to work for me. And as I went through the program, the more I realized, okay, if I had just said, okay, follow what Garrick is telling me to do, I'll get there faster. But instead I have to, look at everything and analyze it and research it for myself and validate it. So from that standpoint too, I can say that's why a lot of people come and ask me about the program, because they know I am a researcher. They know how meticulous I am about APTA and laws and ethics, and is this going to work? And so people come to me and say, look, is this legit? And I'm like, of course it is, because I've actually challenged the process myself. And even after I committed to joining the program, I went through every aspect of looking it up. And is this real? Is this right? I'm not just going to trust somebody who told me this. So I felt like I personally validated it for myself.
100%. And I think maybe that brings us to a question that a lot of people ask, and not in every health profession really, is functional medicine in my scope of practice? And maybe you want to speak to that a little bit from the PT side.
Right. So yeah, that's a question I get asked a lot. And there's several components of that. One is your State Practice Act. And that's going to determine what exactly you can and cannot do, whether you're a PT or whatever. And there's variability, and there's also the American Physical Therapy Association, and it is completely within the scope of the American Physical Therapy Association. And in fact, they are supporting it so much that at the House of Delegates, they are working on new language to deal with epigenetics and nutrigenomics and all that. So this is coming out. You're going to see it. It's definitely within our scope. There are sometimes barriers, like if you live in a state that doesn't allow direct access or nutrition prescription, but there's also a lot of ways around it. And that's what I think the program really helps, is there's other ways where you can become a spiritual counselor. I mean, there's other ways that you can do this. I'm fortunate in Colorado, our Practice Act is wide open and I can do anything I want. And they actually recognize that ordering any test that you need to treat a patient is within your practice, all that. But even if you're in a state where that's not, some of those nuances aren't the case, one, you're helping evolve the profession forward, but you can still do functional medicine. It may look a little different. And I think that's where both the program and the people in the group help navigate that. I haven't run across anybody in the group who hasn't been able to practice. It's just sometimes it takes, depending on where you are and what specific laws you have, you may have to negotiate. Like one of our colleagues is in Canada, and she has a whole different set of challenges that we don't have, but she is very successful in what she does. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think that sums it up. No matter what your licensed health professional practice is, there's a solution. Whatever state you're in, whatever country you're in, there's a solution, and functional medicine is part of your scope. So right. I love that sum up, Dyanna, without a doubt. So how would you just sum up how you feel about your life at the moment, the transition, and where you're at the moment? How would you sum that up?
Oh, I think I'm the best person I've ever been in my whole life, in so many aspects. I mean, I feel energized, not just for work and going out and exercising and doing the things I want, but my relationships, are so much better. My relationships with my team, with my students, with my husband, my family. I just, I spend more time with friends, doing things that are meaningful. I feel like I have a lot of meaning and purpose, and yeah, I mean, just mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I am in the best place I've ever been in my life, for sure. And it's amazing because like I said, I grew up with a lot of interesting that I just never knew what that was like. So, and I think a lot of my patients are like that too, that you think that's normal and you don't know until you reach a new normal. And I feel like through my process, every year I feel better and better. And like, certainly this last year has been a huge growth year for me, where every week I can't believe how much better I feel. And I didn't realize I didn't feel good, because I feel so good. And then I feel better. And then I do something better. I'm like, wow, I had accepted I was getting older and, hitting my midlife, that I'm going to be, have those aches and pains and menopause and hot flashes and brain fog. And to realize that that doesn't have to be that. You can still go through menopause and not feel awful is pretty cool. Yeah. So sum it up, I'm the best I think I've ever been in my whole life right now.
Love it, Dyanna. So as we kind of just round off, what take-home message can you give to the listeners out there that are just on the fence of starting functional medicine or haven't quite got functional medicine right yet?
Right. I think I might use some of your words, like you have to be resourceful. That's true. I, in the beginning, saw so many barriers of, okay, well, what if I can't afford the program? Or what if I have to buy the software? What if I have to do this or do tests or whatever? And come to find out, much like I talk about with my patients, if you open up your mind for creativity, and that was the thing that I really needed to do. I had to, in the beginning, spend a lot of time to actually stepping away before I started the program, of just going on long hikes and just clearing my brain so that I wasn't in such a negative mindset that I couldn't find possibilities. Because when I look at my history, I think I've spent, I think I calculated about $100,000 out of my pocket for my own healthcare, because I had so many issues. So when I look at the cost of what it was to change my life and what I do with my patient care, when they talk about, well, that's a lot to charge for your program. Well, how much have you already spent? How much have you lost time off work? Me, I had to quit my job. That's not making me any money. And a lot of my patients, the same way, they can't drive, they're not working, they can't take care of their families. And then how much are you spending on all these supplements or foods that you think are good for you, or going to, like, I went to massage therapy every week and all these other things that I haven't had to do in a year because I don't need it. And I look at that. So being resourceful, once I could clear my brain enough to say, okay, don't look at the barrier. Do you want to do this? Do you want to make a change? Do you want to go out and do something different? Do you want to be better and serve people on the highest level and serve yourself on the highest level? And if the answer is yes on that, then figure it out. So being resourceful is probably a big one. And I will say being decisive is another one that was your words. Because I would sometimes go back and forth about, okay, I'm not sure if I want to commit to this or whatever. And once I did, everything just filled in where I needed to go. I just needed to say, okay, fine, make a decision whether this is what's important now. And this last year really has helped me to set my priorities every week of, okay, I don't have to think about everything, but right now, this is my focus. I'm going to decide on that. I'm going to be committed. Another one of your words, coachable. I really I had to learn that because I just kind of thought, well, I've had a successful PT practice. I've been 20 years in PT. I've won all these state and national awards. People kind of think I'm a big deal. I thought I knew a lot. It turns out I needed coaching in a lot of aspects. I needed coaching, and I wasn't good at marketing, and I'm still not. I'm much, much, much better than I used to be, but it's still a thing I work on, and I know that. But I needed to be open to receiving the coaching in the areas that were not my strengths or were not working well for me. Because even though I thought I could do it, if it wasn't producing the results I wanted, I obviously wasn't very good at it. And then same thing, committed. The same thing that at first I was a little put off. Like, I know I've heard this from so many people who talk to me. It's hard to commit to this big of a program and say, okay, I'm gonna just put everything into it, and my time, my money, everything. That's hard. But I also see why now, because otherwise you can kind of waver back and forth and be like, okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of this here, I'm gonna do a little bit of that there, and it doesn't produce the same results. That's why with my program, I only do a 16-week program for my patients. I don't say, look, yeah, you can do a consult and then in a month we'll do another one, because they're not going to commit to the program. They're not going to commit to change. And that's what they've designed at Functional Medicine Fast Track, is a transformation. In this 12-week program, you change everything about how you think and feel, and you really opens you up to this amazing amount of possibilities. So I think I do like that you use those 4 words as the how, and in fact, I borrow those when I'm looking for potential clients and I talk to them. I actually use those same words because they're very relevant, both to entering this program and to the patients you'll be serving.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I mean, it is just so defined that when we are taking that identity on of being committed, being decisive, being coachable and resourceful, things change. And yeah, I want to just congratulate you for the change that you've made and making those decisions and moving forward. And I know it's not an easy journey, but it's a worthwhile journey. So to those listeners out there, if you guys are wanting to just find out more, you can certainly just go to our website, which is functionalmedicinefasttrack.com. If you want to book a direct call with our team and have a discussion and see where you're at, you can book a call again with functionalmedicinefasttrack.com/apply, and that'll take you to our calendars. But Dyanna, I just want to again thank you for your time and just congratulate you on your success. And well done for just being all those qualities you need to be to serve your patients at the highest level, and at the same time just change where you're at health-wise. I think that's just an awesome journey that you've been through. And thanks for
sharing. Thank you, Garrick. Thank you for being this transformation process for me.
You're most welcome, and it's been an absolute pleasure, Dyanna.